Dr. Bronee. I am a 27-year-old male, and so I was injured in 2017 in a motorcycle accident, and then some complications with a stint that was put in afterwards in the Dominican, and spent about 4 months in the hospital in rehab, and then returned home to a new body and a new life. Rehab actually was. They did try and help you as much as they could, but there's a lot of other stuff that is seen as more important. Even though sexual health and the mental aspect around it is very important, they spent a lot of time more on making sure that you could get around, go to the bathroom, staying healthy, keeping your skin good, the more day-to-day that you need to do versus the want to do and good for your mental health. So coming home from rehab I was in a relationship, a long-term relationship, and my partner was very, very helpful with and open to exploring new ways about dealing with your new body and how it works, and things are different. She was also very positive in anything and getting help from other sources. So for me, that involved actually talking to a doctor. There's a few things you can do on your own to try, and then at some point you have to actually talk to your doctor, which is much easier than most people think. It's a fairly simple conversation to go in and just say, hey, this is what's happening, and they deal with it all the time, and you're not the first person that's coming with those issues. So the big questions you have to open up is that, things aren't working. The first question is being like, where do I start? And the response is as simple as, try these two things. And if they don't work, this is the third option. Still not surgery or anything crazy invasive, which it can get to that if needed, but it was very simple. Talk to the doctor for 20 minutes and given a prescription. And that's the base of helping to make things work. And obviously that doesn't make you be able to do everything, but it gives you some of the masculinity back. Definitely talking about erectile dysfunction, and that's only part of the issue. The other being with the rest of the act, of the sexual act, but it is mainly against that ED, or erectile dysfunction. So opening up about sexual function and intimacy, it's also not just about that sexual function part. Intimacy as a whole in a relationship are two different things. Yes, sexual function is important in a relationship, but it doesn't necessarily have to be what TV or media says that sexual function is. It can be whatever is satisfactory to you, and learning that part is kind of the stepping stone that breaks you away from this is what I need to do to this is my new life that is enjoyable to me and enjoyable to my partner. And as long as you're meeting those two criteria, then the rest of it, whatever everybody else shouldn't really know about what's going on unless you're going to talk to a camera, and that's where it goes. Is that once you figure out that it's what matters to you and what matters to your partner, not what matters to everybody else. The expectations of everybody else is that all of a sudden those boundaries don't exist and they can ask you anything. So very often you're asked questions of, oh, can you still have kids? Oh, can you still get an erection? Oh, can you have sex? Whatever it may be. And people decide that these are now fair game questions, which really don't think they need to be. But learning how to answer those questions in a fashion that's not demeaning to the person asking them, because honestly they're asking about your well-being, but it does put up that interpreted expectation that they're expecting that you have kids. And even today's day and age, whether you're able-bodied or not able-bodied, there's a lot of people deciding not to have children. And that's not necessarily anybody's business, but at the same time, everybody sees that it's a necessity to ask these questions. So often I would answer them with, would you ask a normal person that? And sometimes if you put that with the right tone, it's not too bad. It doesn't make anybody too upset. And they kind of go, oh, and my hope is that they don't ask somebody else, because I'm fairly open about it, but certain people would be very upset about a question like that.
Is that a good picture?
That's a great picture.
So online dating is the new thing that apparently is the way to date. I was in a relationship for 10 years, and so it's only been over the last year or so that I've been into online dating. And representing yourself, some people in wheelchairs, some people are with a disability. They may hide it. You see a whole spectrum of ways people deal with it. Some people come out and just tell you that, yes, I have a spinal cord injury, I have MD, I have multiple sclerosis, whatever it may be that limits their mobility or their function or whatever situation they may be in. And then you have me, I've kind of just put it there, and I'm in a wheelchair, so if you don't see that, then, well, you missed it. And I make it pretty obvious, but it's not telling people. And then there's other people that hide it completely. And I don't think that's necessarily right, but everybody has their own way to deal with it, and if that's what they think is the way to deal with it, that's what they've got to do.
This might be the one though.
I generally represent myself as the person who I am. A wheelchair hasn't really slowed me down. I still drive a truck, ride my ATV, I hunt, I fish, I shoot. I've got a race car, I've got jet skis, I've got the side-by-side, and all of these things point towards me and give me some of that masculinity back. And when somebody gets in the side-by-side beside me, or is in another side-by-side, and we're all out on the trail together, there's no difference, and it takes away any of that wheelchair being a situation. When you're meeting people, you get them over and over. I've talked to some people that are, able-bodied people and not living with a disability, and most of them have the same kind of situations where they're asked questions repeatedly. It's just different questions. Yeah, I think the ones that I'm asked are generally a little more personal than what most people are asked over and over and over again. But most of my answers, I'll answer honestly to an extent. There is a line where I'm kind of like, maybe on the third date we can talk about that, but on the first four messages in a conversation, we're not going to talk about that yet. When I'm driving and somebody's driving beside me, I'm in the exact same level, the exact same position that they are, and there's nothing, the wheelchair doesn't matter at that point, or the injury doesn't matter. And yes, I have adaptive controls in all of my vehicles, but when you're driving, most people can't tell the difference.